جولي كوزاك، مديرة دائرة التواصل بصندوق النقد الدولي. نشكرك على هذه الفرصة للحديث عن الاجتماعات السنوية المقبلة لصندوق النقد الدولي والبنك الدولي في مراكش. لدينا مجموعة من الأسئلة لمشاهدي ومتتبعي قناة وكالة المغرب العربي للأنباء انفاتكات حول أهمية هذه اللقاءات، دور صندوق النقد الدولي وماذا يختلف عن البنك الدولي، وأسئلة أخرى عديدة حول أهمية هذه الاجتماعات، ما هي التحديات التي تواجه الاقتصاد الدولي وبالخصوص في القارة الأفريقية والدول النامية. نبدأ بدء بتعريف ما هي مهمة صندوق النقد الدولي وما الذي يلعبه كدور في تسهيل الاستقرار المالي.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. You asked about the IMF and our role. So we are an organization made up of 190 member countries. So we are an international organization. We come together as a membership and a group of countries to discuss matters of economics and finance. And our mandate is what we call macroeconomic and financial stability. What that means is that we care about growth in our member countries and globally, job creation, employment, also stability, having an economy that grows but also has a low rate of inflation. And we find that that stability is important to raise living standards for the people. And that is our ultimate goal, to help countries improve the lives of people.
السؤال الثاني بعد هذه التوضيحات حول دور الصندوق، ما هي نوع المساعدة التي يقدمها صندوق النقد الدولي لأعضائه؟ وهل توجد آليات محددة للبلدان النامية والبلدان منخفضة الدخل؟
So at the IMF, we really focus on three broad areas. The first is what we call policy advice. And having a membership of 190 countries means that we go to each and every one of these countries. We send a team every year to each country, and we do kind of a health check on the economy. How is the economy doing? Where are the strengths? Where are the challenges? And we also bring our global perspective. So we talk to country authorities about the clouds that might be on the horizon coming from global events. We also talk in these countries. We go and we talk to the country authorities, the government, the central bank, but also members of the private sector, important stakeholders like the youth, university students, women's groups, and we put together a full picture of the economy, and then we provide some recommendations and advice. We also have another function which is called capacity development. And in capacity development, we provide very specific tailored recommendations at the request of country authorities. Some countries, for example, want to raise tax revenue. They want to find ways to collect more money and in a more efficient and effective way. And we have expertise, and we would send our experts to that country to help them. And the final way is by providing financing, lending to countries if they fall on tough times. We would come in and help with a financing package to help that country as it takes some of the measures to restore stability, economic stability, if they have fallen on tough times. You also asked about reforms, and in each of these areas, we have adapted and reformed over the years. The global economy is changing a lot, and the IMF must change as well. So just to give one example on the lending side, we recently created a new instrument. Climate change is one of the big global transitions that is taking place, and the most vulnerable countries are suffering from the effects of climate change. Droughts in Morocco, floods and hurricanes in other parts of the world. We now have a new instrument called the Resilience and Sustainability Facility, and this instrument allows us to help countries through financing and policy advice to deal with the effects, for example, of climate change, to make them more resilient.
ما هي التحولات التي يشهدها عمل صندوق النقد الدولي تماشيا مع هذه التطورات الجديدة في النظام الاقتصادي العالمي؟
So it is the case that the world has had many shocks in the last few years. Our managing director calls it a shock-prone world. And the IMF, as an institution which aims to help member countries, needs to adapt to this shock-prone world. What we did when COVID hit was, for the first time in our history, we deployed enormous amounts of what we call emergency financing. We provided rapid financing very quickly in COVID to help countries with extra financing to finance healthcare, vaccines, other things that needed to be done in the midst of COVID. Later, we supplemented that with what we call SDR allocation. This was a provision of global liquidity to all of our member countries to help boost their liquidity and their resilience during the pandemic. And that allocation took place in 2021. And we've continued to adapt over time, but more needs to be done. The world is changing rapidly, and we need to adapt as well. So, for example, one of the things that we're trying to do, as we see very strong demand among our lowest income countries, our low income members, we see strong demand for financing and support from the IMF. So we're making a call to our stronger members to please support us, support the low income members by filling the resource gap in our special concessional instrument that allows us to lend at zero interest rates to our low-income members. These kind of adaptations and reforms need to continue to take place.
هل يمكن أن تعطينا مثلا كيف تعمل المؤسسة في تعاونها مثلا مع المغرب وكيف يتم التعاون بين المؤسسة والمملكة المغربية؟
So one of the things that one of the ways in which we're supporting Morocco is what we call flexible credit line. This is it's a credit line. So Morocco, and it's there as first, in order to for a country to receive this flexible credit line, they have to have very strong policies, very strong fundamentals, and Morocco is in that category. It means the economy is well managed, that it is stable. But it also means that it is, like many other countries, can be vulnerable to external events. So Morocco has asked for a form of insurance in this flexible credit line, and we have provided that. And so we have a very strong partnership with Morocco, where we're providing that insurance line should Morocco find that it needs that extra support. Some other areas where we're working with Morocco are, for example, in the digital area. We recently had a conference with the Central Bank of Morocco in June, when I myself was in Morocco with the managing director and with other colleagues to talk about central bank digital currencies and the ways in which we can harness digital technology to improve financial inclusion, to bring the youth more into society, and also to find ways to make public services more readily and easily available to people.
بعد ذلك نحب أن نعرف ما هو مواقع الاختلاف أو الالتقاء، ما الذي يميز دور صندوق النقد الدولي في مقابل دور البنك الدولي.
So the IMF and the World Bank are the two what we call Bretton Woods institutions. We were created in Bretton Woods, a town in the United States in New Hampshire in 1944. We have different mandates, but complementary mandates. At the IMF, we focus on what we call the macroeconomy, the big picture of the economy, how the whole economy operates. And our mandate is macroeconomic and financial stability. So we're focused on growth in the economy, employment in the economy, and ultimately with the idea of raising living standards. The World Bank has a complementary role where they're more focused on project financing. They're looking at specifically poverty reduction and development. So we have very complementary roles. We work very closely together as two sister institutions. And we work in this way together because the only way we can really help our membership is by collaborating and working closely together to serve the needs of the members.
أخيراً لنتحدث عن اجتماعات المقبلة لصندوق النقد الدولي وللبنك الدولي في مراكش. كيف تنظرين إلى الاستعدادات لاحتضان المغرب لهذا الحدث الكبير الاقتصادي؟
Yes, I'm very happy to say I was in Morocco in June when the managing director visited Rabat and then Marrakesh, the home of the annual meetings. The preparations are coming along wonderfully. We had a wonderful visit at the site. We saw the construction and we can see that the meetings are going to be underway and hosted in Morocco soon, in Marrakesh. We're also very, very excited to have our annual meetings in Morocco. This is the first time in 50 years that the annual meetings will be on the continent of Africa. And we're very happy to be having the meetings in Africa for the first time in so long, and specifically in Morocco, because Morocco is a crossroads between the Middle East, Africa, and Europe historically. And what better place than this crossroads to bring together the global community to discuss our global challenges at a time when cooperation is more vital than ever, especially to confront some of the challenges that we can only face and overcome as a global community, climate change being one of the top ones.
تحدثت عن التحديات التي تعرفها المنطقة وأهمية عقد هذا اللقاء في أفريقيا. هل يمكن أن تحدثينا مثلا عن أهم المواضيع التي ستناقشونها في إطار هذا الحدث السنوي الهام؟
Coming together in Africa is going to first bringing the annual meetings to Africa, as I noted, for the first time in 50 years. It's also an opportunity for the world, the global community, to really discuss some of the specific challenges in Africa. Challenges of inclusion of the youth, challenges of debt that many countries in Africa are facing. We mentioned also climate change, but also the opportunities. Also the opportunities that Africa has, right? Africa and the Middle East are regions with young populations, right? This makes them the future. So one of the big agenda items will be, how do we harness this vibrancy of youth in Africa and the Middle East as we think about the future? How can we harness that vibrancy of youth when we think about the opportunities afforded by digitalization and new technologies? So it's a time to discuss the challenges, and there are certainly challenges, but it is also a time to really discuss the opportunities and the promise that lies in Africa and the Middle East.
أشكرك أستاذة جولي كوزاك رئيسة دائرة التواصل في صندوق النقد الدولي على هذه الفرصة. شكرا جزيلا.